Thank you all for joining us today and welcome to this webinar of the Diplomatic Studies section of the ISA on the topic of solutions in computational and data diplomacy made in North and Northeast Brazil. My name is Asaf Sinive. I'm the chair of the Diplomatic Studies section, and I'm also a professor of international security at the University of Birmingham. I'll just like to take a minute to remind everyone that the deadline for abstract submission for ISA 2026 is in a couple of weeks' time on June 1st. So if you haven't done so already and you're thinking of submitting an abstract to the conference, please make sure you do it by the deadline. And more importantly, please try to select the section, the DPLST section, as one of your two preferred sponsoring sections in the conference. So moving on to the webinar today, I'm absolutely delighted to chair this webinar, which has been organized by our colleagues in two Brazilian universities. I will introduce them by order of appearance. So first we'll have Henry Yuri de Paiva Silva from Federal University of Paraíba. He will be followed by Rebecca Martins Medeiros Paiva from the Federal University of Paraíba. Our third panelist is Renan Holanda Montenegro from Federal University of Pernambuco. And finally, Rafael Marocos Magelas from Federal University of Paraíba. We will dedicate approximately 10 to 15 minutes for each panelist, and this will give us plenty of time for Q&A and discussion at the end. And as always with these webinars, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask the panelists, please use the chat function, the chat function on Zoom. This session is recorded, by the way, and it will be uploaded to, I presume, to the ISA website over the next few days. So without further ado, over to you, Henry.
So thank you very much, Asaf. Thank you for you and for International Studies Association. It's a pleasure and the honor to be here with you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and congratulations for your job and in this Diplomatic Studies section of International Studies Association, and then put together all these guys here today to work and try to speak about something that is a challenge for the world that live in the era, in the age of computational and big data. This is a challenge not just for the diplomats and the practitioners, but for research like us. So I would like to start this, and congratulations and thank you for you and for your staff to help us to be this webinar possible. So I'm here with other three colleagues. I would like to show you, first of all, where we are from. So Rebecca can help us to show the place where we are. So we can see the map here in Brazil. It's so easy to find João Pessoa, where I'm talking right now at this moment. Rebecca, show us. Here we are. So the eastern point of the Americas, João Pessoa, is the place, the city. You can really try. You can find it easily in the map because the eastern point of the Americas. So we have João Pessoa, the capital of the state of Paraíba, in the northeast from Brazil, the region that we are here with other 8 states. So we're going to show you our city in the next slide, please, Rebecca. This is the picture of João Pessoa city here in northeast Brazil. So we are near the sea, Atlantic, and here we can find the UFPB, the Federal University of Paraíba, in the middle of the forest here. So is the place that you can show, Rebecca. So this is the campus of the Federal University of Paraíba. You can see the green is the predominant color in our campus. So we have this CCSA. This is the Center of Applied Social Science, where I work here as a professor at the Department of International Relations. So you can see here the city, the our university and the center where we work in all this research started, and here we are, talking about this diplomatic and computational data diplomacy solutions. And here is the place where we are from. So I would like to share with you. So Rebecca, you can show the next slide. So here we are. We are here in the Federal University of Paraíba, and we start to work with this area as often and UFPB. It started with a research in the energy security study group, where I'm a coordinator of this group, and we started to work with the agreements of energy signed by Brazil with another countries and organizations. So there is a database with the agreements, and the platform the database that we can find the agreements in a Concordia platform. This is the platform maintained for the Ministry of Foreign Policy of Brazil. We can extract the agreements. We start to work with these agreements. And so when we see the database, as I've and other colleagues, we saw that we have a capacity to build a web platform to show these data, and we connect our study group with ARIA. Is another laboratory that here in Informatics Center, here in Federal University, ARIA, Artificial Intelligence Application Laboratory, to put together international relations and research for energy agreements. And we started to work with the computational professors in this area, and we developed a platform. So we work with the work started with this. And after that, we created a laboratory, a digital diplomacy laboratory, where we develop now data analysis and produce computational artifacts. And we work with together another university, as you can see, the Federal University of Pernambuco, with the Professor Hannah that is with us right now. But we don't do this job just with the research institution, Azaf and colleagues. We work together with the government of the state of Paraíba, specifically with the Secretary of the Science, Technology, and Innovation, and the government of the state of Paraíba, and the Paraíba Research Support Foundation. The name is FAPESC, that work with us and give support for our research and in different ways. And we are working here we are developing solutions in computational data diplomacy, because we have the support of the government of Paraíba. That's really important in this situation. And all of the work that we do here have connection with United Nations, and colleagues. We have agreement. There is agreement with Federal University of Paraíba and United Nations Institute for Training Research. And we made a visit for them in 2022. And after that, they are really impressed with our work with data diplomacy, computational diplomacy. And in the last year, because these relations, we launched the Data Diplomacy Academy. So Federal University of Paraíba, Federal University of Pernambuco work together with UNITA and launch this Data Diplomacy Academy. This is the place where you can work with data and with computational artifacts to bring for the diplomats and the practitioners solutions and in this kind. So this is the partners. This is something that we try to create during this work, and these partners are so important to use and to amplify the reach of our technology. So after that little introduction, I would like to put the limitation, as often colleagues, of what is the area of studies and applications in international relations that we are working with. So the first concept that is important is digital diplomacy. Now, you can see digital diplomacy, as you can see, the diplomacy involved with the digital with technology to improve diplomatic conduct, help to prepare diplomats and other stakeholders for the complex multi-level negotiations. You can put this in these scenarios, the digital technology. So you can reach this, we can understand this digital diplomacy with the presence of the information communication technology, as you can see in social medias. We need to put, to understand the digital diplomacy, work with applications and frequently with a web application. So it's the software engineer with the big data, as Kai-Fu Lee told us in the book of artificial intelligence. Data is the petroleum of the world. It's the oil of the world right now, because it's really important for the movement that brings a lot of things in the world in our lives. And after that, digital diplomacy is related to artificial intelligence. As another challenge that there is in this moment, to make the artificial intelligence work for the benefit of international relations, the citizen, and the society as well. So with these 4 points, you can imagine that digital diplomacy will help to achieve foreign policies objectives by promoting the interactions with government, citizen, business community, international institutions. So this is a scenario, and this is bring a transformation in traditional diplomacy, because we trying to reach more agile, accessible, and effective work in this context. So this is a challenge for traditional, but I think that it's possible to consider, or in the horizon, the possibility that the work become better and better with this context of digital diplomacy, but that is challenging, as we can see in the last slides. Digital diplomacy. When you see digital diplomacy, you have other 2 pillars. One of these pillars is data diplomacy. Data diplomacy is related to the age of the big data, right? And how is the characterized this big data age? So can you show? So the first thing is the sheer growth in the quantity of digital information. It's incredible. When you open something in the internet, you can see data arrive every time about everything. So this is the age of big data. It's the sheer growth, the quantity. But it's the quantity, and this is produced day by day. You can see not just research, but journalists and other actors in international relations put the data in evidence every day and every night. But if you have a lot of great production of data in a really big velocity, but you can see another thing, that is the capacity of the science to make the data automated analysis now. So the role of the science in this point is really important, to try to make this data have sense and to bring solutions for the things that are involved in this data. So as I can show you in this slide, positively or negatively, data can affect the diplomatic process, and they play a key role in assisting policy formation by government and international organizations, as well in the action of global players with the private sector. So the data is the really important. It's not new for nobody, but as you can say, we need to define the scenario where we are working. So we have digital diplomacy, you have data diplomacy, and the other important concept that we have that there is in this context of study and applications international is computational diplomacy. We need the data. We have the data. There is data, but we need computational artifacts to the visualization, the information, the analysis, and know better about the data can bring for us. So the computational diplomacy is really important, because they bring us analytical frameworks, and tools that can facilitate negotiation, data analysis, communication between international actors. So we can put this data. We can access by a smartwatch with your cell phone. So we will need to artifacts to reach this information, understand it better. So in computational diplomacy, we have technological advancements in data science and machine learning. So we have a lot of structures and tools that make the data more accessible, more intelligible. You can comprehend better with this. And we have a computational modeling and massive simulation of highly complex systems. So we created with the computational methodologies, extruder and tools, a laboratory for tests, experience, and simulations that can bring a realidad by the data, that we can, by the data, and where we can find a lot of information, analysis, and to bring us solutions for the problem that we have. So the development of different web applications using different electronic devices, this is the other point. You have different tools, structure, but we need the platforms, the applications on web, where we can access with your computer, smartwatch, and cell phone, something like that. And bring together and bring another place here. We bring another time for this computational diplomacy, the challenge of artificial intelligence. This is to try to simulate with the machine performance like a woman intelligence, such as learning, decision making, partner recognition, problem solving. The artificial intelligence bring us that challenge to make things better, not for the practitioners, but for the citizen and all the society. This is the challenge. So this is the universe of the concepts that we are working: digital diplomacy with data analysis and artifact and computational artifacts. And I would like to give the floor now for our brilliant student, Rebecca Martins, that will show you how can we do this in different ways in the academic context with the Digital Diplomacy Laboratory. Please, Rebecca.
Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be part of this meeting today and to share a bit about a project that reflects the academic innovation emerging from the northeast of Brazil. So, as mentioned earlier, my name is Rebecca, and I will be speaking about the Digital Diplomacy Laboratory. It is an initiative created in 2025 and officially registered in the National Directory of Research Groups here in Brazil, known as CNPq. And as mentioned, also, the laboratory is coordinated by Professor Henri Yuri, and it aims to represent a strategic effort to connect international relations with digital technologies and data-driven solutions. So in the next few minutes, I would like to talk about the four main pillars of the laboratory, that is teaching, research, outreach, and technological innovation. So generally speaking, the Digital Diplomacy Laboratory operates within the Center of Applied Social Science at the Federal University of Paraíba and is linked to the Department of International Relations, as shown before by Professor Henri Yuri. It was created as a space for experimentation, simulation, and the development of innovative solutions in the area of computational diplomacy and data diplomacy. So the lab's mission is not only to support academic production, but also to offer the development of qualified human resources in the northeast of Brazil and the world by preparing students and researchers to work at the intersection of diplomacy, technology, and data. So the first foundational pillar of this lab is teaching. We find it particularly important and interesting to explore the role of digital transformation in the teaching of international relations. Therefore, the laboratory supports and expands classrooms activities by integrating practical tools, data analysis, and simulations into the academic curriculum. So students involved in the lab work on projects related to data diplomacy and computational diplomacy, allowing them to experience real challenges through academic guidance, especially from the International Relations Department at the UFPB, and through subjects like contemporary international politics, themes of foreign policy and globalization and international relations. So the lab becomes a place where theoretical learning is applied, helping to prepare new generations of professionals capable of navigating both the traditional structures of international relations and the demands of a digitally connected world. Moving on, we have the second core pillar, that is research. So the lab fosters interdisciplinary research, connecting international relations with fields such as computer sciences. Our current research lines include topics like the governance of digital platforms and the use of AI in diplomacy. Research at the lab is not limited to academic theory. It also informs policymaking and the development of evidence-based tools. A good example of what's going on in our research is the research on energy agreements, both in Brazil and globally. This includes a wide range of academic work, such as books, book chapters, journal articles, doctoral theses, a master's dissertation, and most recently, a computer engineering undergraduate thesis proposing a chatbot for the Netrix platform that Professor Renan will talk about later. Through these initiatives, the lab contributes to building more intensive and data-informed models of international engagement. Moving on, we have the third pillar, that is outreach. This means taking what we study and develop inside the university and sharing it with the broader society. The lab works in partnerships with public institutions and civil society to support the international agendas through training, consulting, and technical support. For example, we collaborate with the Paraíba State Secretariat for Science, Technology, Innovation, and Higher Education through the program of Paraíba Without Borders, which is focused on enhancing the state's role in international cooperation. We also develop science communication initiatives through Netrix News, that is a project dedicated to sharing knowledge in accessible formats, working, for example, on social media promotion. And we also organize events in the contents of the laboratory. As an example, in 2023, we held a conference on science, technology, and innovation. And in June this year, we will organize the third Netrix Symposium, including a hands-on lab for students from a state-level technical school here at Paraíba. Through these collaborations, students and researchers are able to apply their academic work in practical contexts. So the outreach pillar helps us to ensure that our academic innovation is accessible, useful, and responsive to real-world challenges in governance and diplomacy. For last, we have our fourth and final pillar, that is technological innovation. So this is where the lab truly becomes a space for experimentation and creative thinking. So the lab works on the design and development of computational artifacts, such as digital tools and platforms that support decision-making in diplomacy and international cooperation. And these tools, they are built using data collected and processed by the lab, often through open sources methods or partnerships with government agencies. So our innovation strategy combines academic rigor with agile development, meaning that our solutions are scientifically grounded, but also designed to be adaptable and scalable. By integrating AI, data visualization, and user-friendly interfaces, we aim to offer technological resources that enhance the digital capacity of the public institutions, especially in underrepresented regions. So, in conclusion, the Digital Diplomacy Laboratory is not just a research initiative, it is a space for innovation, learning, and real-world impact. It combines theory and practice to prepare students, support public institutions, and explore new forms of global cooperation shaped by data and technology. And now, to illustrate how these four pillars come together in practical terms, we will move on to two concrete examples of tools currently being developed within the lab. The first is the Energy Treaties Matrix, also known as Netrix, that will be presented now by Professor Renan Holanda. And the second is the use of AI in diplomacy, taking the Paraíba's International Cooperation Monitoring System as an example, that will be introduced by Professor Rafael Magalhães. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rebecca and Yuri. First of all, I would like to greet Professor Asaf Sniver, and on his behalf, extend my greetings to all the IISA staff. And of course, good morning, everyone. I can see some familiar names here, Felipe Estri, Alessia, Nayara, Ana Flavia. Oh, so good morning to everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today and to speak about innovation coming from our Northeast region in Brazil. And as we have seen so far, the collective effort at the Digital Diplomacy Laboratory has been centered, among other things, has been centered around developing digital and data-intensive tools to enhance international relations, to enhance diplomatic activities from a Global South perspective. This is really relevant to mention at the beginning. And the platform I will speak about from now on is the Energy Treaties Metrics, or simply Enetrix. It focuses on a specific and highly strategic domain, which is international cooperation in the energy sector. Its development involves a wide network of partners, among which I must mention the government of the state of Paraíba, through its Secretary of Science and Technology, and the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. Currently, the platform has two models or sections, one specifically focused on Brazilian energy diplomacy, powered by data from Brazil's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and another dedicated to international energy cooperation. The last slide, please, Rebecca. And the international model is drawing from data from the UN Treaty Series repository. Finally, I should mention at this introduction that the platform is available in Portuguese, English, and Spanish. There is a QR code on the screen that leads to the platform's webpage, and I would like to invite everyone here to take a look around and explore the information available there. Okay, let's move on. There are two interrelated questions that are worth addressing right from the start. The first is, what exactly is Enetrix? And the other is, how does Enetrix work? So Enetrix is an innovative data diplomacy platform that explores and analyzes data from international energy agreements. For example, looking only at Brazil, we can answer questions such as, which countries does Brazil have the most, say, nuclear energy agreements with? How has Brazil's energy cooperation with European countries evolved over time? Is it possible to identify thematic and partner priorities across different governments over time, for example? Looking at the entire world, some questions that can be answered through the platform. For example, are there more bilateral or multilateral agreements in global energy diplomacy? Which countries are the most active in signing international energy agreements? What subjects are most recurrent in these agreements? So let me be straight up to the point here. The kind of information on international energy cooperation that Enetrix provides was previously unavailable on any platform with this specific level of pace and easy. When we look at major international organizations in the energy sector, such as International Energy Agency, the International Renewable Energy Agency, or even the United Nations, we find that this level of detailed strategic analysis has not been made easily accessible or well organized. And this represents itself a major innovation. So the second question, how does Enetrix work? In a nutshell, Enetrix works by exploring relationships between multiple variables that are key to understanding the dynamics of these agreements. These variables allow users to gain deep insights into the factors shaping international energy diplomacy. Among some of these key variables that Enetrix analyzes, we can mention, of course, the year in which the agreement was signed, the specific date, the country or organization that is a partner in the agreement, if it's a country or organization, I mean, if the agreement is bilateral or multilateral, the region, the location of the signature, the type of the agreement, the category of the agreement, the objectives, the goal or purpose of the agreement, such as energy security, renewable energy expansion, infrastructure, the resources mentioned on these agreements, the metrics that categorizes the agreements, if it's renewable, non-renewable, the documents, you can see the full documentation. So with these variables, we can users can explore the relationships between them to uncover insights. For example, they can explore how different partner types impact the type of agreement or how resources have evolved over time. They can also examine how agreements vary by continent or regions and how these differences influence the objectives set forth in each agreement. So Enetrix allows users to interactively explore this data, visualize trends, and identify patterns that can shape decisions in international energy cooperation. So the next slide, we can see an example from Brazil data. It's the index, the homepage of the Brazil model, the Brazil platform. In its Brazilian model, Enetrix currently, at this time when I speaking here right now, Enetrix contains data from over 400 agreements made with 26 countries and 15 international organizations. This includes data related to bilateral and multilateral agreements on topics such as energy security, renewable energy, energy infrastructure, and many other crucial aspects to international cooperation in this field. For example, we have the AI tool just on the bottom, saying that in the Americas, the most frequently mentioned energy resource was electricity, appearing in 77 agreements. Most of these commitments refer to renewable energy as the type of energy metrics, with 84 agreements. And the majority of these agreements were signed in Brasilia, which accounted for 98 agreements, representing 37.4% of all agreements. So by clicking in all this information, you can explore the data. For example, Rebecca, the other image, you can see, for example, that over 100 of Brazil's international acts are joint declarations. The data also show that complementary adjustments and action plans are among the most frequent types of documents. This kind of information is particularly relevant for assessing the nature and level of commitment involved in each agreement. So let's move on to the next one, an example from world data. There are nearly 3,000 documents available for analysis in this computational artifact. On the screen, you can see, again, the homepage of the model, of the world model. Just below, it's possible to track the evolution of international energy diplomacy over time. And interestingly, the most proactive actor in international energy diplomacy is not a country, but an organization, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, with 773 international agreements. By clicking in View Details, you can see other image. Please, Rebecca, we can access the full picture. Next comes the United States with 645 agreements. Then we have two more organizations, the International Atomic Energy Agency with 635 documents, and the International Development Association, which is also a brand of the World Bank, with 360. This is just a few examples. We can explore other variables and the interrelations between them by navigating the platform. Now let's turn to two other key questions, please, Rebecca. That is, why is Enetrix significant, and who exactly stands to benefit from it? At this point, I think it's pretty clear that the real value of Enetrix lies in its ability to provide essential and strategic information that was not easily available or even available at all before. It enables users to analyze political, economic, technological, social, and environmental aspects of international energy agreements in ways that were not possible before at this pace. Also, this tool adds transparency to international cooperation, providing insights into how countries and organizations approach complex energy issues. And it also makes it easier to understand the shared goals and actions that guide these agreements. And perhaps most importantly, Enetrix is particularly valuable for countries in the global south. For many of these countries, there is a constant need to bridge the gap in knowledge and resources in order to effectively participate in international energy negotiations, and Enetrix helps filling that gap. As for the question of who exactly will benefit from Enetrix, the answer is quite simple. Everyone involved in energy diplomacy and cooperation. I mean, public officials and diplomats involved in international relations and negotiations, researchers looking for reliable data on international energy agreements, market investors seeking to understand the energy policies of different countries, journalists who need journalists who need accurate and reliable information for reporting. Enetrix empower these groups by providing secure, comprehensive, and detailed data, helping them to make better decisions, conduct research, and inform the public. And a real life testimony, let me briefly share an anecdote about the value of Enetrix in real life diplomacy. During a recent meeting at the United Nations, the project coordinator, my friend here, Professor Yuri, was approached by a diplomat from a small global south country, which I will not name here, but this diplomat explained that due to the small size of his country diplomatic staff, it was nearly impossible to gather and analyze the information related to energy cooperation. And so this diplomat emphasized how a tool like Enetrix would be incredibly useful to help streamline the process, manage energy-related reports, and engage in more efficient and effective diplomatic practice. This is just one example of how Enetrix is not just a technological tool, but a platform that can really empower diplomats and countries with limited resources to engage more effectively in global energy negotiations. As for conclusion, the future steps, we are excited about the future of Enetrix and the potential for collaboration with researchers, diplomats, and institutions around the world. We can already anticipate that among other innovations, we are working on first, improving the data and the platform's interface. And I just heard some minutes before this presentation starts that the new database now contains more than 2,000 agreements on the Brazilian energy diplomacy. That's great news that I really like to share here by now in first hand. Second, we are also working on developing a chatbot, as Rebecca also mentioned, a chatbot to enhance user interaction. And three, we are working also on exploring possibilities to start including the textual data from the documents within the technology. So we invite you to join us in this journey as we continue to expand the platform and explore new challenges, opportunities, and of course, potential collaborations. Now I'll give the floor to Professor Rafael, my dear friend, who will dive into some of the more technical aspects, such as technological development, artificial intelligence, and other features of these tools. Thank you very much for your attention. Rafael, please.
Yes, thank you very much. So thank you, everybody, for this moment. I'm not fluently as my colleagues on diplomacy. My participation here is really technical, but it's impossible to state that I'm learning a lot over the process. And I just got in love with this scope, with this area of application. So my name is Rafael Magalhães. I'm professor in the Federal University of Brazil in the Paraíba State. And I started to code and to apply artificial intelligence in 2006. And a long time ago in very different domains. And as I said before, I just got in love with the results that we are getting from the diplomacy and the diplomatic area. And here, as member of the laboratory, and I'm proudly to be member, I work as an applied research and as a lead AI developer engineer. So I really dirt my hands coding and to check the things, and I love that. So I'm here to try to share our approach on apply artificial intelligence technology in the diplomatic scope, but I can't go so deeply in technical aspects, but I can share anything that you would like to discuss later in QA section. So as stated by Professor Yuri, the contemporary modern diplomacy increasingly relies on data and data technology. Here at Lab, I use it to call it a triple D or DDD, data-driven diplomacy. So we are using advanced analytics and artificial intelligence to mine diplomatic data, not only tabular and easy accessible data, data from World Banking, UN, etc., but mostly unstructured data. Data like document images, text, audio, the content from treaties, speech, trade, media signals, in order to find some insights, some relevant information. This approach helps us explore and also to build tools to serve the diplomatic corpus and help them tackle the information overloaded, also shared by Professor Yuri, making them able to navigate in a fast-changing global events. We believe that AI offer advanced tools to analyze data, to predict, to help and classify trends, to facilitate decision-making in some sense, and in evolving global environment. So in other words, we believe that AI can turn raw data into some strategic foresights for negotiators. So Rebecca, please, could you? Yes, good. Sorry. So the first thing is what is the AI role in this content, this context? The AI role is to, I'm sorry, I just can't see the presentation, Rebecca. I got back. Okay, thank you. Sorry. So the AI role here is to be a neighbor. It's very important to say that it's not the final objective. It's not the holy grail of the things. So it's another tool, a really good tool, an important tool. And how can you use it in the sense of laboratory in the construction of the software? For example, we can use it in automating analysis. With tools like natural language processing, we can scan hundreds of pages of policy documents, looking for relevant facts. The nowadays buzzword, LLMs, GPT, VLLMs, visual large language models can summarize these documents or even draft initial proposals. AI also automates routine tasks, has initial classification, searching content. It's really and truly helping in decision making and to support the decision making. We can use this kind of tools to content creation. It's undoubtable that it's a great tool to effectively write like a human. It's a non-deterministic tool, but it really do a good job on writing like a human. And as a consequence, we can get this to help us in making much more free time to diplomatic corpus to focus on strategy, on to understand the data, on to reasoning about the data, and to communication tasks. Finally, AI allow us much more people establish connection around the world, and how giving access to diplomatic and legal and important documents with AI translators. And I'm not talking about English, or French, or even Portuguese, or I'm talking about language variations, the small group use languages. I'm talking about Asiatic languages, African languages that AI is starting to be used to translate text from, but also the main languages get a great improvement. For example, diplomatic missions with restrict budgets to this kind of resource, to the AI can allow access to important documents in much more short time. Rebecca, please. And what kind of technologies what key technologies we are using in the construction of these tools? First of them, NLP techniques. It is well-known machine learning techniques, a lot of them. It's used to identify important names, name identity recognition, key concepts, countries, subjects in policy texts. The one that shine our eyes today, the LLMs and the VLLMs, multimodal large language models, to extract content and to rephrase it, to answer questions. For example, we started to training some models like that with diplomatic content, and to use models built in Brazil, for example, to create a chat. Later that we advanced on using different kind of technologies like RAG. We tried to use models coming from China, from US, of course, from Europe, from different sources. It's commonly for everybody that use this kind of language. Sometimes we got hallucinations or not so good content. And the solutions to go further on this to get a good results is to use the RAG. RAG is a way to retrieve some content and use this content on creating the text. So we retrieve and extract paragraphs from official documents and generate a real and good based response to be used in a real scenario. All kinds of regular machine learning techniques as classifiers, time series models, predictors, regressors to find trends are used too, and they still very good on what they do, and even much more deterministic answer than the regular LLMs. We started to use other than the regular database, a SQL database, we are using NoSQL database like Graph Knowledge, and it helps our agents, LLM agents, to find in a different way and more faster way some relations between terms and concepts. So overall, these technologies work together, one to find data, another one to understand, and another to present it. Rebecca, please. Okay, so to make it more concrete, this explanation a little more concrete, I would like to share with you some of the applications, efforts, and technological artifacts that we produce we produced already, and we are working on. The first already presented by Renan, it's Enetrix, a Brazilian project. It's a great example. We presented it in another time before. It gathers all signed energy threats from those of Brazilian partners countries into one database where diplomats and analysts can then query it for trends or to create visualizations and do everything that Renan already shared. Another one for internal use only until this year, but we will make it public later. this year, is a chatbot for diplomats talking. We are working today to go on a bigger context, more than energy, but climate, secure, trade, healthy, and to extend the same approach to some of our experts and our partner. We tried it, but what they are saying when they look at this platform, this chatbot, this tool, is that it's a game changer for data-informed diplomacy. You can find some things, get the artifacts related to the real content, and help them to check what is possible. A third one is called Syscop. It's just started to be building in the end of the last year. We are in the first phase. We can think on it as a tool for the public diplomatic general governance, an AI public worker, or like a press assistant also. It do automatic research and highlight what is happening, what was happening within government agents related to foreign projects. It also will have a chatbot to answer journalists or citizens in real time on these projects, on this effort, on this trading, on all kinds of actions stated or started by a government or its partners. We have much more, but in this short moment, we do real projects to realize how artificial intelligence can move in from laboratory demonstrations to everyday tool for diplomats, to researchers, and even public workers and international officers and representatives. Rebecca, please, could you go further? Yes. Has any other research, development, effort? We got a lot of challenges, difficulties, and we go and solve it in some way. We learn with it. We realize what is important and what not. It's the main purpose. And I would like to share and highlight three of them. The first, so deploying AI in diplomacy has hurdles. Much diplomatic data is locked in old software or failing systems to retrieve it. We started to go on that and grab the data, but we are trying to solve part of this problem by creating shared database and using connectors to allow AI systems so they can access everything. And we also try to share with the general public the raw data, the processed data also. So it's making more easy and accessible. AI models also make mistakes that I stated before. For instance, an LLM might hallucinate, and it can even fake some threat, fake some data. We mitigate that by using retrieval augmented generation, the RAG, and we are always having human in the loop for sensitive data to evaluate it. The queries, especially in producing reports. And lastly, technology alone is not enough. People must use it. Actually, we build it. It's built by people. It's used by people. It's to people. So the experience that you have, especially if Anatrix, it's important to demonstrate, to present the clear benefits like time saving. So we can convince both busy diplomats to try AI solutions, to try the technology. Rebecca, please, the next one. And finally, from our experience and the partners, it's important to share what you have learned over the process, and it's not finished. We learn everything every day, but we'd like to share some practice that you got over the process that emerged over the time. It's important to never think of AI as we call in Portuguese silver bullet. They think that will solve all the things. No, diplomats is still guiding the mission. The best approach is to use AI as a co-pilot tool in some limited aspects or tasks, show the results, and then expanded it. And as we got confidence with that, we can see what it's possible or not. It's not to be my final answer, the holy truth thing. It's very important to involve the end user just in the early stages. Get feedback from actual foreign affairs officers. It's much more rich than making hypotheses that will never get used by them in final. It's a really software design thing, but it's worked very, very well in diplomatic sense. Also, one of the most difficult, most time-consuming is the quality of input data. It's essential. It's crucial. A lot of garbage getting in. You must guarantee that garbage don't goes out when do applications. Other resources are always welcoming to make it better, faster, and constant. And lastly, the user adoption, it's a problem too. We need to make it as easy to use, as intuitive as possible. For instance, a simple chat interface or iterative map almost of the time get more attraction and relevant content than dozens of manually form search and dozens of list of table. So I would like to thank you very, very much again. Uncountable more things could be shared with you today, but given our time, limited time here, I do prefer to leave some minutes, final minutes to questions and answers and to share with all the participants. So thank you.
Thank you all. That was really, really interesting. I've certainly learned a lot. It was actually so good that every time I had a question to ask and I was taking notes, sort of the next slide answered my question. But I still have a few to ask you. But I'll give the attendants a few. The attendants a few more minutes to send us their questions either via the chat or the QA functions on Zoom. So if you don't mind, I'll just ask you a couple of questions just to get us started. So first, I was quite relieved when you said towards the end that we still need diplomats in the future, that the robots will not take over the field of diplomacy. So that was very reassuring. Because whenever I have these conversations with colleagues who work on AI and diplomacy, somebody always says at some point, one day an AI mediator will do a better job than a human mediator in bringing about a ceasefire or a peace treaty between Russia and Ukraine or in the Middle East, for example. So is that a realistic or a desirable sort of future iteration of everything that we've heard today? Or do you think that at the end of the day, we still need human touch in these interactions, whether it's diplomatic crisis or any other diplomatic interactions?
I can give the floor for my colleagues, but I need to say some words about this as well.
Yeah.
This is the technology developed with the human in the center of the objectives of the development of all this technology. And we can put the human-centered and environment-centered. So all the technology, as Stuart Herschel told us in another book about artificial intelligence, intelligence is give answer for the questions, give solutions for the questions. So we need to bring the artificial intelligence, computational diplomacy, data diplomacy, digital diplomacy for this contest. So we need to change the life of the people for something better. And if you have scientists like you and me and the other guys here, boys and girls, working with this purpose, we'll never lose this game. Yes, because you can bring this for the reality of the people. not just for the government, stakeholders, something like that. But we need to focus in this objective. No? So this is the main point that I always talk about this. The technology can bring something better for the people, for all the environment, either. No? Bring a circumstance of equity, justice, and sustainability. So I think that our job is not just develop technology and knowledge, but make this objective, this something essential in our work. So is that what I think that the digital laboratory believe and all the work that we are developing here in Paraíba and Pernambuco and northeastern Brazil, there's this connection with this context. And I give the floor for my colleagues if they want to complement something else about this. Thank you.
Rafael, did you want to? Yeah, sorry, Renan and then Rafael. Yeah.
Sorry, if I may, just a few words, just to complement. I'm pretty sure that regarding production processes, industry, even services and delivery staff, and something related to these kind of activities, AI is already or will be replacing some human activities. I'm pretty confident about that. But as for diplomacy, we are in the same page, Asaf. I think that it's impossible to make this kind of negotiation, interaction, and this kind of specific work without human beings. The main purpose, and I guess my friend Rafael explained this in a brilliant way, is on the one hand, provide the practitioners with artifacts that can analyze easily and in a fast pace a big amount of data. And this ranges from a report or a briefing for a meeting to something more delicate issues regarding negotiations and stuff like that. And this is on the one side. And on the other hand, and also departing from Rafael contributions, the humans are leading the way in the development of these platforms. Without humans, we cannot do anything, nothing. And this point of view I'm sharing here also relates with the question that I already seen that Felipe asked here in the chat, but I'll not answer it for now. These some just words. I don't know if Rafael wants to add something more.
So thank you. It's a very important question. So, everybody is concerned, not only in diplomatic context. I would like to share my impressions from the development, software development perspective also, and probably is the first one to be tackled. We have language models coding software and doing things automatically, but I have two. I just totally agree with Professor Yuri and Hannah, but I have two perspectives about that. The first one is even we go further and we improve the language models, the AI in general sense, we still having a level of nuance, a level of information sensibility that we still can't capture from a video, from a text, from a speech, recorded speech. It's in the environment. It's over the time. It's even in another dimension that exists independent from the data that you can put inside the computing. So when two diplomats are doing negotiating, they have so many things there, much more than what is reading in the paper or what is stated in the beginning of the meeting. They have the history, the comprehension of each other. They have what they are supposed to achieve during the meeting. And one AI can't, even if I think 100 times better than we are today, I don't really think that they will grab everything that is important to reach the objective when two countries are supposed to agree in some purpose or some objective. This is the first one. It's the technological aspect, but of course, I couldn't say to you that AI is doing the job that a lot of people use it to do, like to fill in things, to understand context, to automating answers, information, etc. These kind of things will be over the time done by AI. I'm sure about. Even e-commerce, it's done a lot of robots managing everything. And in this sense, we started to put much more value in what is handcrafted by human, the real thing, the human thing. And the second way to see it's more a hard way. How can I say? Okay, let's look what happened with the market, with the money, because we are a capitalist world. So if every job in the world started to be replaced by a robot or by AI, so the human will not work. If it not work, it don't get money. If without money, we can buy. Without buying, there is no commerce, there is no production, there is no nothing. So it's impossible to the market, the globe, the countries, regulating in a sense to allow everything to be done by robots. Or I much more calm about this subject about being replaced. We has every early disruptive technology, we go change what we do. For some positions, it's go faster, and other positions go slowly, but we go change. We don't need anymore to brother manually, but we still paying for a good handcraft product. So, but the amount, the quantity of these things probably change over the time. And just in the academic context, just to finalize my answer and give the opportunity to other questions. If I would like to do a research, I just put the topic and I ask some AI to create it. One AI will create my report, experiments, everything else. It will be submitted to a pair judgment, pair correction done by another AI that will evaluate it and will go to the final reader. The final reader will not get the paper to read. We will ask to one AI to summarize it and to say, so why we are still doing that? That there is no sense and no real value on this kind of approach. This is my really small impression and what I got until today. Probably 10 years later, we are in another world, in another sense.
Well, thank you for trying to reassure us today. It's very appreciated. And we've got a couple of questions. So the first one from Felipe, I guess, sort of following on my question, but more specifically, so have any of you actually engaged directly with diplomats or presented these AI-based proposals to diplomatic practitioners? And if so, how have these diplomats or practitioners responded, particularly in relation to perhaps exhibiting anxiety or hesitation about really what we've just been discussing about really the future of their profession? So I don't know if anyone would like to answer this question quickly.
I need to give you some words about that, Azaf, because the same question I did when I saw another webinar with you. So what about I don't know, as Diplomatic Statecraft?
Yeah.
Was the book? Né?
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the author. And
Nicholas Kalev.
Nicholas, yes. So I did this question for him, and because is Felipe, the name is Felipe. So, Felipe, this is incredible. With diplomatic practitioners and specific government diplomats, it's incredible when you show the Enetrix, for example. No, so I have a lot of examples of that when I show for the diplomat. Oh, it's wonderful! I can find all the agreements, the partners, the main resource, the main energy matrix, renewable, non-renewable. It's fantastic, and there are other situations that what can I do with this? What? Yes, I know the name is Anatrix agreement, but what can I do with this? So this the first thing that is give me some question about the agreements from Brazil of the world. Oh yes, so you can find something about China always, right? China about China. Oh yes, here we have the agreements. Brazil with China. Oh, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that. So, uh, not just for the people that are working in the technical staff of the foreign policy minister, they that work with technology. They say, oh, I didn't know that you can put because the repository of the agreements that we have in the world, that like Concordia platform, where the repository of the agreements, and the United Nations Treaty Series Online, where the repository of the agreements, and you have just a list of the agreements, just that. So with Anatrix, so you can, if you want to say, if you want to know how many agreements there are between Brazil and in Europe, you need 5 weeks maybe to bring something important with 3 diplomats working with this. So, Felipe, the question is, we have a part of diplomats that are really impressed and can use the technology, but there are other part of diplomats that they really don't know, and the young guys, not just senior diplomats. So, oh yes, but I think I can use it. So try to make a question. So it's not easy, but it's really important to know that the academic the relation between academia and diplomacy is just in the start of the work. I think, and they are habituated with the books, the articles, the chapter of the books, something like that. But with platforms in his cellular is still a problem. So we need not just develop technology, but develop teaching about this, courses, and all the support to put this in evidence how this can make your life easier and in this kind of situation. So, Philip, thank you for your question. So we can find the different positions, but it's a challenge. I think that is still a challenge, as I've and other colleagues, to put the computational diplomacy in the context of the diplomats.
Behnam?
If I may, a few words again, really fast. I tend to find that the reactions from these stakeholders range from surprise and enthusiasm to some degree of reservation, I guess, which is natural. And yes, we have engaged in some work missions, work travels with several public officials in Brasilia and beyond Brazil and different ministries. But ultimately, though the broader objectives, as I mentioned, is to bring greater transparency to international cooperation. But most importantly, this Enetrix specifically technology, it's intended to be scalable to other issue areas. So the aim is really to provide data-based foundations for decision-making in contexts marked by budgetary and staffing constraints, conditions that characterize the diplomatic practice of global South countries. And I always remember our interactions with these diplomats, and they tend more to the enthusiasm and surprise than from reservation, I guess. But it's just an impression, Rafael.
Thank you. Rafael, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again. Good questions, Philip. Very, very interesting. Just to complement also Professor Yuri and Rena, in the perspective of technology, what I got is in relation to your question is due to two things. The first of, you asked about if it will create a generational division. I think it's not about AI specifically, but probably about technology over the years. Has it happened before with computer, with internet, with cellular, with mobile? And so it will go further with different technologies also. But I remember last year we presented some of these tools in the UN at New York, and just later I met a good diplomat friend in Washington, Ernesto, and he asked me, "Hey, Rafael, how secure is to use this tool in the terms of the content?" And it's very, very important. I felt this is the most important thing. How can I feel safe using the data, the output of these tools? So the problem is this LLM tools, they are undeterministic. It's not deterministic. It's a probabilistic thing. It's very similar to what a human do. What we are trying to guarantee is to create an ensemble of agents. Each agent has a purpose. For example, if the LLM generate one abstract, a summary, we have another agent to ask, hey, why it's true? Another one, why it's not true? And they extracts the text to confront it. And as much as possible, if it gets some data, numeric data, tabular data, etc., we ask it to an agent, coding agent, to generate the code to retrieve this data from a real database and to confront it. And always, when we output something, we try to give all the under the hold information. So someone, if they want to check the data, they can go there. It's, I don't know if in the end, someone will get more job to do to evaluate it, but with experiments, it works something good. And you put in the question one important thing, and I agree with you because I'm outside the diplomatic subject. You stated that there. So perhaps stemming from the sense of diplomatic expertise is too context specific or nuanced to be translated into AI tool. So for this kind, and I agree with you, the diplomatic is very, very, very context specific and nuanced. He knows a lot of things that AI will come to him in the context that he is working with. Probably one expert on China or US or another country has much more great comprehensions about the content than the AI in the beginning, but it's still useful. It's still important to use this kind of technology, I believe.
Thank you. So we've got one more question for Mehmet, and he asked, given current developments in quantum information technologies, what are the likely prospects for advancing computational tools and AI-assisted digital platforms in areas of energy consumption and climate sustainability? Yuri, I see your hand shot up very quickly. Yes.
I'm gonna give the floor for the other colleague that would like to say to talk something back because that's enough for me, I think.
Oh,
in this moment. So Rafael, Rebecca, if you want to answer this question, please.
Okay, even for about the energy consumption and climate sustainability, even for the quantum, we had a big problem. We need to solve it in the long term. there are no more than 2 weeks that OpenAI, the company that has the most used technology nowadays, they are saying that its processors are starting to get melted. They just burn in the power of usage, the consumption they are getting now. To try to solve it, the open source community, the open development has a lot of good solutions, came with good models with much less consumption energy, much less necessity for computation, resourcing on general. And I think this is a good point. I do agree with all the effort that European Union are doing on regulate, on see what is important or not, what is feasible, not just going develop, and otherwise we are just playing with the carbon consumption and market. And about the quantum computing, I'm not really the expert, but of course I know something. This is just in the early stages. I can't figure that it got the final consumption or even the servers or the governments in the next few years. We will need a lot of development before we got that. But what I think will happen when we achieve it is to, in some sense, we got more complexity in the terms of security, cryptography, computing. We will achieve another level, but all of that will get move us to another level. But we will still having problems. We're still having answers. We're still having questions. They will just change a little in a fast pace. And probably I don't think we need to concern too much about the technological aspects, but what kind of problem we can solve with that in medicine, in energy, of course, and in environment. What can you achieve? What we can solve? What can get in a good balance with all of this technology? Not the technology by technology. It's a really good, interesting question, and we need to reflect about it. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to answer this question or follow up? No? I'm mindful of the time. We've got 3 or 4 minutes left, but slightly worry of the fact of we might ask one more question and then we'll run out of time. So it might be a better idea just to bring this to conclusion right now. So I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to attend today, wherever you are in the world, in whichever time zone you're in. Thank you so much for our 4 panelists. I certainly learned a lot. I've already got a couple of ideas for an article which I'd like to write with you. And so please check your inbox very soon. But that's all for me for today. Thank you all for joining us. As I said, we will upload this recording to the ISA website over the next few days. But for now, thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.